So if we look at the different provinces, I mean, in many ways, the Western Cape has always had a very interesting political kind of role, and that goes back to the early days of the Union of South Africa and kind of even pre-Union politics. But what are some of the ways in which the framing of the Western Cape and the analysis of the Western Cape is perhaps outdated in terms of how things actually happen and how things actually work?
And the Western Cape is a very interesting province. It's politically interesting because we've seen a change in political parties coming into power, and I think that has made it a highly contested province. I think some of the analysis has been a bit flawed, and the reason that it's flawed is that people make presumptions about a particular voting bloc. In this case, the coloured population. And so parties will have particular strategies, they will nominate particular candidates, they will say particular things with a view to wooing this particular bloc. But it's often based on mistaken presumptions.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you look at the fact that the National Party came in at provincial level in 1994, but if you unpack a little bit and you see there were polls pre-1994 where people were very fearful of violence, and at that time the National Party still had access to the media, and so people had the image of the ANC as a terrorist movement, etc. And so the National Party won by a small majority. But then eventually the ANC won the province. Now, how did that happen? People observed what was happening at a national level. So you observed Nelson Mandela coming into power. You observed a new constitution being drafted. South Africa is now the beacon of the world. You observe the National Party exiting the government of national unity, all of those things. So that is why I'm saying that voters are quite sophisticated.
Yes.
Then you've got and it also shows how people in a particular province, in this case the Western Cape, can look at national events.
And that influences
them. So again, at national level, you observe Thabo Mbeki having to tender his resignation, all the things happening in the ANC at national level and to an extent at provincial level, and the DA wins and takes control.
But only, again, with the help of Patricia de Lille's party.
Yes.
And that's something that's often written out of the story of the DA majority in the Western Cape, that in fact Patricia de Lille was an important part of that process, and it wasn't a full-blown win for the DA.
Yes, so the point that I'm making is that political parties to an extent determine their own fortune. You know, the parties would look at the voter and blame the voter and say, the voter has now caused this problem. But in actual fact, the voter is looking at what's happening in the political party.
Yeah, it's like a foxtrot.
And to me, that is quite a sophisticated thing. So coming back to the current situation in the Western Cape, I don't see a reversal in trends, which means that the ANC would probably face quite an uphill battle in the city of Cape Town.
And an uphill battle within itself. I mean, the ANC in the Western Cape seems to be sort of mired by these fightings and factions, and it just hasn't got its ducks in a row.
Look, there is a lot of controversy around their leader. There have been protests around candidate lists. There was a launch which had to be cancelled, etc. So, as I say, I don't necessarily see a reversal of trends.
Which in a way isn't a compliment to the DA, because then it wins by default, not because it's the best of two candidates who are both fighting fit. It's almost got a weak competitor.
Look, the DA has chosen the route of their track record of governance in the city and in the province.
Which is not great if you look at, people on the bread line.
I would argue that if you are sitting in a community facing harsh conditions, they would feel that that narrative is flawed. Statistics, whether it comes from the ANC at national level or in other provinces, or whether it comes from the DA, those statistics are cold comfort. It does not help the person that is struggling. And I think, you know, for the DA, probably an admission of the challenges would go a long way to enhancing their campaign message. That for me is quite important.
And perhaps also that idea of, you know, to my mind, who you picture when you picture the party, and whether it really resonates with people who are at the moment, you know, engulfed in water and facing the elements because of the awful weather.